President Shehu Shagari met with high-ranking military officers shortly after he finally took office. Instead of designating a civilian minister of defense, the senior military officers conveyed their desire for the president to continue holding the defense portfolio. However, Shagari refused. Instead, he appointed 44-year-old Iya Abubakar, a retired professor of mathematics at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, as the civilian minister of defense. Abubakar was an Adamawa-born Fulani, just like Muhammadu Ribadu during the First Republic. But in October 1982, for unknown reasons, Shagari took over Professor Iya Abubakar's portfolio as defense minister for the rest of his first term. The opposition saw this as a step forward, using the military for party purposes in the incoming 1983 elections. After winning a second term in 1983, President Shehu Shagari then appointed an Ilorin-based lawyer and businessman, Akombioni Yongi, as the second Minister of Defense. However, Shagari did not designate ministers of state for specific ministries as was done during the First Republic. In addition, the president consented to wear a military uniform whenever he was carrying out only military state duties for the psychological benefits of the armed forces. President Nnamdi Azikiwe had also done this during the First Republic. It might have been a colonial custom originating from the quasi-military background of the majority of British governors-general. Shagari generally used Umaru Shinkafi, the Director General of the National Security Organization (NSO), as a go-between in his non-confrontational approach to negotiations with the army. Along with these delicate trips, Shinkafi also paid visits to two well-known exiles, Yakubu Gowon and Emeka Ojukwu, during the negotiations for their individual state pardons. Clearly, the army needed to be handled delicately in this sensitive matter. Seven months after taking office in April 1980, the newly elected president started a delicate game of musical chairs in the High Command. Shagari promoted Jallo to the position of Army Chief, kicked Akinrinade to the constitutionally required but powerless position of Chief of Defense Staff (CDS), and named General Nwa Wushishi from his geopolitical zone, who was then the commandant of the Staff College, as the Deputy Chief of Army Staff. 2 years after taking office in October 1981, President Shagari finally made his move, promoting Wushishi to the delicate post of Chief of Army Staff, kicking Jallo upstairs to CDS, and expressing gratitude to the retiring General Akinrinade for his services to the country. After that, Shagari gave his trusted army chief all responsibility for internal postings of officers and paid very little attention to anything other than a brigade of guards. He even cautioned one of his ministers, Umaru Diko, not to provoke the military by meddling too much in their internal issues. When Brigadier Buhari, having recently returned from a course in the United States, clashed with General Wushishi on his posting to the army, Shagari declined to intervene. This strategy was exposed on December 31, 1983, when the president was fleeing from rebel troops that had stormed the presidential lodge in Abuja. He was unable to identify the officer, Brigadier Sani Abacha, who had announced the coup over the radio, or pinpoint his ethnic background. Abacha, a far northerner like the president and a Kanuri originally from Borno, but born in adjacent Kano State, commanded the vital 9th Brigade in Ikeja Cantonment, close to the federal capital. Major General Joseph Nalven Garba, the former Foreign Affairs Minister of Nigeria, did, however, have his military career terminated by the Shagari administration. With his wide range of international contacts, Garba was larger than life. Additionally, he was the previous commander of the Brigade of Guards that removed General Gowon from office in 1975 together with others. It is possible that Garba's decision to retire was influenced by the perception that he was an unreliable military politician. However, a large number of those who remained in service had also participated in the same coup of July 1975. Wushishi, for example, then deputy commandant of the School of Infantry, was the officer who had been sent in a plane around the country to gather senior military officers for the first post-coup meeting in Lagos, which the troika of Murtala Mohammed, Olusegun Obasanjo, and Theophilus Danjuma were chosen to lead. In the past, Wushishi served as a federal minister. Babangida, a lieutenant colonel who subsequently became Wushishi's de facto deputy, participated in the July 1975 coup as the 4th Race Regiment's commander and a member of the Supreme Military Council. By some coincidence, as of the time of the coup that eventually removed him, the President and Commander-in-Chief Shehu Shagari, the Chief of Army Staff Inuwa Wushishi, the Director of Army Staff Duties and Plans Ibrahim Babangida, the Quartermaster General Mamman Vatsa, the Commander Brigade of Guards Bello Kaliel, the Director of Military Intelligence Aliyu Mohammed, and the Director of the NSO Umaru Shinkafi were all from the part of Nigeria we now call the Northwest Geopolitical Zone. It is possible that these civil-military arrangements gave the president a false sense of security. Numerous structural flaws, some of which resulted from the nature and scope of the 1979 electoral mandates, beset the Second Republic. The 12 opposition-controlled states, as well as the press, and the MPN-dominated federal government with its 7 states did not cooperate well in zero-sum game behavior typical of Nigeria. Crucially, however, the oil boom abruptly ended in 1981, coinciding with the peaking of popular hopes for a democracy dividend and the approaching maturity of some of the jumbo loans taken out by the previous military governments. Significant interruptions resulted from this, including gaps in the salaries paid to teachers and civil personnel. Even the mass expulsion of 2 million foreign nationals, primarily from Ghana and Niger, in February 1983 was ineffective in deflecting political attention, gaining political capital, or buying time for the economic reforms outlined in the Economic Stabilization Act. At the federal and state levels, spending exceeded receipts due to the competition between parties and the distraction of election promises. Consequently, state governments accumulated a debt of 13.3 billion naira by 1983. Anyone familiar with contracts from the military era would say that corruption, smuggling, abuse of import licenses, and the sheer cost of the presidential style of government all contributed to this. Although these issues were not unique to Nigeria. Annual spits and polish parades by the Army, Navy, and Air Force, accompanied by displays of remarkable military equipment, helped to enhance the military's image as a national organization that was unaffected by political squabbling. Proposals to utilize the military to assist the 1983 presidential election process were criticized by rival parties worried about a recurrence of the events of the 1960s. Tensions concerning how much the army, rather than the police, would be employed for such purposes were also growing within the military. According to reports, during one of the multiple gatherings of officers to discuss army responsibilities, policies, and election strategies, Brigadier Buhari, a former state governor and federal minister, brutally told Lieutenant General Gibson Jallo, the chief of defense staff at the time, that he should inform the president that the army could no longer handle the situation. The Nigerian army attempted to sway the president's choice of government ministers soon after the elections, which were marked by the customary barrage of usually true claims of vote rigging at all levels by both parties. The army did this by handing the presidents their list of preferred candidates. Around this time, there were also growing indications of army discontent and coup plotting, but for some reasons, Shagari decided to deal with it off the books, once more enlisting Umaru Shinkafi as a go-between. This may have been to his naive belief that officers in his geopolitical zone would not betray him. Since it had previously been established in July 1975 that such a scenario was possible when General Gowon was overthrown by his own kinsmen, President Shagari was manifestly mistaken. There have been multiple indications that Major General Muhammadu Buhari may be involved in a coup attempt. Buhari denied twice. Seeing that his allegiance to the Shagari administration was in question, he even threatened to quit the army. However, Buhari was not the only one who was actively strategizing while appealing to regional and personal allegiance. In late October, early November 1983, Shagari received a lengthy private visit from the Director of Army Staff Duties and Plans, Brigadier Ibrahim Babangida, and the Director of Military Intelligence, Colonel Aliyu Mohammed, who were both good friends with the President and pledged their allegiance. Major Bamidele of the 3rd Division was being held at that precise moment and subjected to a fabricated trial after he naively informed his boss, Major General Buhari, in Jos about coup rumors. A few weeks later, on December 31, 1983, President Shehu Shagari was overthrown in a coup by senior northern officers he had helped nurture in the early 1960s and in whom he had placed so much trust. The ousted president had failed to learn from history.